We are back once again, and things are a little different this time. It's me and Anthony.
Hi guys.
We're changing it up. So I'm your host, Eric.
And I'm Anthony.
And we are the new Raw Minds.
Yeah, man.
With a little bit of a change.
Yep, working on some big changes. Unfortunately, Joey had some important things he had to take care of, and we respect the hell out of him for putting himself first and doing what he needs to do for himself. That's what we practice and what we preach, and he's doing what needs to be done. So fuck yeah to that guy. And we're just kind of figuring it out as we go, man. Raw minds, raw dogging it.
Yeah, but we're raw. This is it. We just do whatever, and you guys are a part of this journey that we're trying to change the world in. So
yeah, man. So if you guys wouldn't hesitate to leave us a like or a share or subscribe, that'd be great. You know, like it helps us move up the ranks a bit on podcast list. We're putting a lot of background work in behind the scenes. So if you guys could just share it out there, leave us a comment, or things that you want to see, or the types of guests you want us to have on. We're open to criticism. We're open to things that you guys want to hear, because this is for you guys just as much as it is us, right? If you
100%.
or you know someone who's struggling, don't hesitate to reach out to us too at rawmindspodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to be a guest on the show, same email, rawmindspodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up. We'll have a chat, and that's how our guests get in here. And then you get to sit in the hot seat with Eric and I and get to fucking rock a show and tell your story, man.
Hell yeah, man.
Hell yeah, buddy.
I know that we usually bullshit, but I think we should just get into it because I think it's a gooder.
There's a lot to unpack here. I'm fucking down for that.
Yeah. So I think today we are joined by a guest that had an incredible story of resilience and recovery. Imagine discovering that someone that you trust slowly starts poisoning you with mercury. Our guest is not only a survivor, his harrowing experience, but also found healing through a surprising source. That source is magic mushrooms. We'll dive into his journey with Psilocybin and how he became part of his trauma journey and how his recovery. So, further ado, welcome, Ed.
Welcome, how's it going, guys? It's a pleasure to be here. Great gratitude. I've seen some of your shows, and I just love them. You guys, all the power to you. We need more of this. That's for sure.
Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. We were surprised with what you wrote. You sent us that, and it blew me away, man. To be honest with you,
I get that. I get that. When I tell people my story, they kind of they're draw jobs.
Yeah.
It's just not just it's been the entire journey from start to finish. From my childhood, raised by narcissism and energy vampires. If you understand that concept, it's been that way 100%. For my entire life. I've had to separate and sever most of my connections to my family and friends just to be able to heal. So, but a bit about myself, I guess. My name's Edward.
Please.
I'm 59 years old, and I was a nurse for a few years, and I volunteered through land-based and ocean search and rescue out of Vancouver, out of Nanaimo, Vancouver Island. I did that until my trauma caught up to me, and I was an athlete most of my life, and it was like getting hit by a truck. All of a sudden, boom, and I was not functionable in society. I was working, and I was unable to work. I don't know if you know much about the healthcare system and stuff like this, but it can be quite toxic, the environment.
Yeah.
And
my mom was a nurse.
Yeah, so. Yeah. So it can be really, really toxic. It doesn't get any better, and I couldn't function, and I ended up taking a leave, and I was diagnosed type 2 bipolar. It's a rapid cycle, and even though that was pretty stable, the depression and stuff was engulfing. I couldn't function. To be perfectly honest, the things that I went through in the depression and the lack of support in any direction I moved in was catastrophic. There's no way to function. And I finally closed off, and I was just waiting. I was just waiting till my kids grew up, and I was just going to roll over. And that was it. I was done.
Can I ask you something, Ed?
Sure. Anytime, man. Yeah. Ask away.
How did your depression present itself? Just because like I'm always curious about like what it looks like for other
Mhm.
people. So for me, like I suffer from severe depression. I take medication for it. But for me, like if I'm in my depressy state, like
Yeah.
it's like I could lay in bed, I could fucking sleep all day. I don't want
Yeah.
to talk to anybody. Like that's what it is for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was completely debilitating. I took my
Yeah.
kids to school, and I literally just wanted to crawl into my bed and fucking hide until I had to
Yeah.
pick them up. And my
Mhm.
escape was gaming.
Okay.
Gaming
Yeah.
was my stake. World of Warcraft and whatever that I could use to distract myself was a huge addiction. Gaming.
Mhm.
All my free time was spent in that when I wasn't with my kids. Um, but my depression was it was horrific to the point where I was struggling sometimes to opt out. Um, and that didn't happen very often, but it crossed my mind for sure.
Yeah.
It was just you become a product of your environment, and when you have um, no support as a child, um, you don't know how to navigate your emotions.
Mhm.
And when people project on you and project on you and project on you, I mean, that's you end up becoming what they project because they say, your parents and stuff like this are like, well, you're this and you're that and you're this and you're that, and they don't.
You inherit what they say and what they
Yeah, you become
yeah,
a
they
product of
mold you.
your
Yeah.
environment. Yeah, they
Yeah.
mold you, and if they're
Yeah.
broken and unhealed, well, that's who you end up being. And there was just no navigating the emotions. When you don't know how to navigate your emotions, you have to end up being your own parent as a child and
Yeah.
try to navigate your emotions. And
Yeah.
it is complete hopelessness. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
from my perspective now, from the healed version of myself, I look at depression as a byproduct of hopelessness that your soul goes through. Your inner child is your soul. That's how I look at my soul. It's my inner child,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and healing through that. The once I realized that and experienced that hopelessness and stuff, I ended up healing through that depression. But that was after my psilocybin treatments and after that. But being the product of that I was raised up in, it was a pretty shitty childhood.
Mhm.
Like my first memory was being stripped down and molested in my parents' bed. I was like 4 or 5 years old, I think.
That's
And
disgusting.
yeah, it is. Those people that
Yeah.
you trust to care for you and to guide you and stuff, and they do things that they were. I didn't talk to them about their childhood life and experiences, but I know that sometimes these things can go on from generation to generation to generation, and it's
Mhm.
it's a sad reality, a sad truth, and it's something that hopefully we can cure and deal with and heal through. But yeah, that was my first experience was
About age
that
4 or
kind of betrayal.
5-ish.
Yeah,
That's
four or
when
five years
you're
old, and
yeah.
being you know. But the big thing is, I mean, just that experience itself was pretty significant. But what happened after that was more profound and extremely damaging and toxic, because when you're dealing with narcissists and people that are codependent and don't know how to function, don't know what healing is, has no empathy or compassion for other people, like my family, the only person that was allowed to have emotions or express himself was my father,
Mhm.
and he was a full-blown narcissist and a bully and kind of cruel sometimes. Don't get me wrong, we had a good times as well, but when you have to become aware of energy and become an empath in order to maintain your security and your safety, right? I mean, that's a little much when you're paying attention to the energy in a room. Is it safe? When you hear the vehicle come into the house after work, okay, how does he shut his door? How quickly did he stop his car? What is the
Mhm.
footsteps on the chair going up? How did he handle the door? I mean, out the
Yeah.
back door, are you safe right now? But you never know. It's so
Yeah.
it's so chaotic that you just don't know what it's going to be from one moment to the next. Because when you're dealing with somebody like that, it doesn't matter what your emotions are or what your experiences is what they project. And being
Yeah.
the child I was, you're going to see that I'm just like full of energy and light and happy. I mean, all the healing I've done, I just love life now. I navigate things in a much different way than I did before, because I made some pretty poor choices. When you're, projected in that way, and you believe yourself
Definitely.
to be this way, you can make some poor choices as well. And I made poor choices,
Yeah.
but I healed through it, and I forgave myself, which is one of the hardest things to do. I mean, you
Well,
can get forgiveness from other people. Yes, go ahead.
when you make poor choices though, that's when you learn too, right? That's
Yes,
when you're learning,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, your
Yeah.
mistakes are your learning tools. As long
Yeah.
as you understand and don't let somebody take them and beat you with them to make you feel
Yeah.
literal, that's the point where you really start stepping up for yourself and saying, no, 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 this is my opportunity to learn something. This
Yeah.
isn't for you to make yourself feel better or me feel smaller. So it's just a
Yeah.
matter of perspective on how you look at that, and that's exactly what we need to do. What you said,
And
Gary.
that
So
goes for any aspect
Mhm.
of your life too. Like that's how
yeah,
I learned my
yeah, I
job, man.
agree.
Like I'm a carpenter by
Definitely.
trade, and I'll tell you right now, I learned the most by fucking it all up. And same with
Yeah,
life. Like
Mhm.
like I'm a recovering
yeah.
drug addict, man, and I learned the way that I live now by completely fucking up my entire life. Like that's the most
Yeah,
growth comes from the hardest scenarios that we create for ourselves, right?
I fully agree. I couldn't
Yeah.
agree more. 100%. Yeah. So, but the biggest thing, I think, the most profound moments were the shaming and stuff, because it came out that this happened, and they gaslit me and projected and shamed me, and made me to be the villain
Mhm.
in this whole
Like
scenario. Like, you're the dirty
it's
boy and
your
all this. It's
problem.
just,
Yeah.
it's my
Yeah.
problem. Yeah, it's my problem.
Yeah.
So, in order to control me as a child, they needed to subject me to a lot of emotional pain. And you're
Mhm.
bad, and you did this, and you said something you shouldn't have. So Santa Claus doesn't like that, and we're going to give you coal for Christmas. And it literally broke my heart because I was a good kid, and it broke my heart to open up coal in there, and I cried and I wept while my family just looked at me, going, "Yeah, let's give it another 5 minutes to 10 minutes maybe." And I'm sitting there, not knowing why, and they projected me as unworthy.
Mhm.
And like my family, just they don't know what empathy and compassion is, and stuff. I mean, some of them
And
do.
this
They
is you're
have.
a kid, right?
Yeah,
You're a
I was 4 or
kid.
5 years
And like,
old.
yeah, how
Yeah,
you
and your
how like
family breaks your heart on purpose to make you feel that kind of emotional pain, right?
it's sad because like you're born pure. You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah,
come into this world and you're pure.
yeah,
And then next thing you know, like, you turn these whatever happens in your life, it turns you either bad or good, and depending on what
yeah,
you do with it too. But
yeah. That's a that's a
that's
huge
yeah.
thing. Your choice, right? Do you
Mhm.
become part of what they're trying to project on you, or do you actually stay true to yourself? I
Yeah.
mean, that's a hard choice. I mean, so many people, they end up projecting what they were subjected to, and that
Yes.
really sucks. And that's one big huge
Sad.
problem.
Yeah.
And I would say too, like at this point in society, I feel like we're in like such a transitional generation. Do you know what I mean?
Oh
Like
yeah,
when I was doing a lot of work on myself and like I had to look back on situations with my parents and stuff, like the only conclusion that I could come to that was like the most logical sense that wouldn't like project hate onto them was like they did the best that they could with what they had. And
yes,
Mhm.
and being a parent myself now, like what I learned, and I can only assume it was the same for my parents, and I can only assume it was the same for you guys. Like there were things that my parents did with me that I would never do with my children. You know what I
yes,
mean? Like I used to get my ass beat when I was a kid. Like I'd get spanked and stuff like that. I wouldn't do that with my children. I'm not saying it's wrong or negative or terrible. It's just like there were certain things in my life growing up that I like consequences that I had that I wouldn't instill on my children today. But
yeah,
a big part of that too, to me, is like our parents didn't do exactly what we're doing here. They also didn't have the resources that we did growing up, right? Like the world is so fucking connected right now. Like Christ, like I'm in Ontario and you guys are in BC. Like there's so much connection all over the world. There's so much connection to resources that like my parents or my grandparents absolutely didn't have, and there wasn't this level of understanding, and therapy wasn't a fucking thing for especially men back in the day, right?
yeah,
So
Definitely.
so like the the biggest level of acceptance that I could have was like, unfortunately, like my parents were doing the best that they could with what they had at that time. So
Yeah.
I
That's
applaud
how
you
I.
for taking the initiative to change that for yourself and for your children, Ed. Like I just want to say that
Thanks,
because
Anthony.
like we're not dealing with some typical shit. Like my childhood was pretty typical, you know what I mean? But like what you're talking about isn't typical behavior, I feel, for a child, especially at that age and the type of stuff that you've gone through. So I want to applaud you because we know a bit of your story before you coming on, before you share it. But so
Yeah.
I just want to say, man, like fucking right on to you for doing everything that you've done to get to where you are now and to
Thanks,
come on here and share your experience. It
thanks,
means a
brother.
lot to us, man.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thanks. It
Definitely.
was hard. A year ago, I couldn't do this. I mean, I
Yeah.
was still trying to wrap my brain around exactly what happened and to put names to faces and stuff. I mean, I didn't want to believe what I was seeing. I didn't want to do
Hmm.
that. I buried it and I buried it and buried it because to express it, all I knew is I'm going to get myself in trouble if I ever say this again. Like I had fear, like
Yep.
great fear,
Hmm.
and that was what was projected onto me, and that's how they
What was
controlled me
the
with emotional.
what was the fear though? Was that like fear from your father,
Yeah,
from just
well,
people?
my family, like my father was kept me in a state of constant fear. For I didn't get physically hurt that much. Like I got strapped and stuff, and we had to hold things out, and we, you know, when one of us took it, then we all got it, you know, kind of thing.
Hmm.
When it got straps and stuff like this, I mean, it was emotional abuse and neglect and abandonment, which left the most profound um, difficulties in relationships in my life.
So
Because
do you have siblings?
yes, I have three sisters.
Okay, and this may be a little bit personal, but how are they today?
They really don't like me.
Because you've probably done the work and it's
Yeah,
not enough.
I've like if I told you what they did to me after I find out my wife has been subjecting me to mercury, my ex-wife was subjecting me to mercury and trying to get through this healing and stuff like this, and that they, every single one of them, kicked me out and abandoned me this summer. Every single one of them,
Hmm.
get out. There's like, I can't heal with you here. You have to leave. Huh? Sorry, excuse me. What are you talking
Yeah.
about? You know, get out of here. You know, we don't want you here, and it's because I'm speaking the truth. So they can't handle it, and you know, I ended up putting me in a really difficult position, but the most rewarding healing position because now I'm on my own. I'm by
Good for
myself.
you.
I'm doing a solo journey, and
Yeah.
I'm like, there is no other energy around me, and it really made me face myself, and that's where the big healing, that's where the big stuff, where the tears and the pain and the anguish was flowing, and I let it
Hmm.
flow, and that was the key, is just letting it flow. But
The
you know,
release.
it, yeah, exactly, you know, and trying to
Yeah.
feel it from start to finish, the
Yeah.
complete cycle. We fear our pain so much that we don't want it. It's like, no, we don't want
Hmm.
that pain. We don't want that pain. We're going to hide from a pain. We're going to run from a pain. But until I did my psilocybin treatment, I didn't know how to navigate it. And when you do
Hmm.
psilocybin, when you do some good doses, it will lead you to where you have to heal. And I had a shitload of healing to do. And we'll get into that when we
Hmm.
do
Yeah.
the next part about the healing. But my journey continued. You know, I wasn't a bright student as a kid. I was pretty naive. Um, I I when I was one of the most profound experiences when I was a child. I was 10 years old and I died. I had the measles and got a rare disorder called sleeping sickness, and you stop, your respiratory system stops, and I died and took a lot of damage,
Like,
neurological damage from lack of
whoa,
oxygen.
fuck.
Yeah.
Is that when you're sleeping that happens, or is it just called
You
that?
just fall asleep and you don't wake up.
Holy shit.
But I was lucky enough, when I was healing, my parents had their neighbors over and they were playing cards in the dining room table. And I asked if I could sleep on, I like if I could sit on the couch and watch TV or something, right? And
Yeah.
you know, what we had 3 or 4 channels back then. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
pretty well, yeah.
The old big
So
tube TV.
yeah, exactly. So
Hmm.
I was there, and I remember going to the bathroom, and that was the last thing. My mother had had this incredible panic to call her brother. She has a twin brother, and the phone was right beside my head. So they ran to the phone and saw me, and I wasn't breathing. I was purple. I was done. And they flipped me over and tried to get me going again. They're banging on my back, and it was enough to get me going. But I was down long enough where I took some significant damage. I reverted back to like a socially as a 3-year-old when I was like 10, 11 years old. I think I was
Oh
10.
wow.
Yeah, I was like,
Oh,
there was a lot of
wow.
damage. I was like talking to a toddler. I was trying to communicate with a toddler and stuff. I had to relearn I became dyslexic. And whether that was previous, because I wasn't a good student anyway.
Well, how was your
But
motor skills too?
my motor skills were good that I remember. I was like an athlete most of my life. I'm not exactly sure. I don't recall if there was physical impairments because I was such a runner and cyclist and got right into I was always out and running because and playing with my friends and
Mhm.
stuff like this, very active. But it really affected me emotionally, or not emotionally, but socially as well. And yeah, I had to relearn things. I had to relearn um, like the basics of education and reading and math and all this stuff and it was a bit challenging, but when you're kids and when you take damage, our body's a great compensating mechanism and it heals, and that's what it did.
Mhm.
So I'm really thankful for that. And but when I died, it'd be nice if somebody um, put on a show of people that have had uh, death experiences and what changes that
Mhm.
they've had. That's something we might touch base with later. Anyway, it's just a suggestion. Anyway,
Love to, yeah.
yeah, I when I died, I remember everything just like it was yesterday. I remember looking up at my mother, and then instantaneously I'm looking down at my body and my mother looking down at me with concern, and everything was white.
Like
Um,
out of body
Out of body,
experience, you
yeah,
mean?
yeah. I was i
Oh,
was
wow.
i was in I was above, looking down, maybe 5 or 6 feet above my body and my mother looking over me. And I looked around and trying to figure out what the hell's going on. Now, do you recall Matrix, the movie
Yeah.
Matrix, when
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
when they're
I
in the
think there's a
loading
new one
program and
coming
it's
out.
white?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what
And then
it's
you got
that's
like the
exactly what it
shells that
likes.
come.
Everything, no seams, no nothing, everything was white. I couldn't see distance
Can
or
I
range or anything.
can
Go
I
ahead.
touch on something? So
Please do.
my mom, like I said, my mom was a nurse, and this is before I was born. Um, she was coming back from a retiree party where like one of her colleagues was retiring, and she's leaving the party. She goes, looks both ways across the street. It's dark, doesn't see a car, starts walking. This truck comes out of nowhere and runs her right over. Um, they brought her to the hospital in an ambulance, and she was pronounced dead. She was dead for 4 or 5 minutes. She was then they pronounced dead, did the time, everything. Go to put the blanket over, and all of a sudden, boom, she came back to life. And
Oh
what
shit.
she said is, it was all white, and this lady walked up to her in this white, beautiful dress, and went up to her and said, "It's not your time yet." Hit her right on the forehead, and then she woke up in the hospital. And
Damn.
on top of that, the doctor said that she'll never have kids again. And then I think 8 years later, me and my sister were born. So
Wow.
miracle child.
No
So I could
kidding.
just relate. That's what
The
my
whole
mom told me.
scenario
So
is miracle.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that white thing is that's exactly. But I know that I had to come back. I don't know why. I don't know who I communicated with. I don't know if that's being withheld for some spiritual
Hmm.
reason. I have no idea. But when I came back, everything changed. Did she ever, did things change for her? Because for me, I saw accidents before they happened. I could pick up on energy. I started hearing things when I could hear. I don't know if this was because I was a bit of an empath, but at that young age, when I was like 12 and 13, I could hear people's fear. I would pass by my
Hmm.
dad in the hall, And I would answer him thinking he was talking, and he would say, "Well, why did you say that?" And I said, "Well, didn't you just say this?" And he would get really mad at me, and he'd freak right out. And he's like, "Well, sitting me down in front of him on the floor and ask me to, what is this card? Read my mind. What is this card?" And that happened. But
Holy shit.
anytime I ever
Crazy.
expressed anything, their response was, "Don't tell anybody because they'll take you away and cut your brain out."
Mhm.
That's anytime when I was, like 12 and 13, when I anticipated accidents, and, I'd be walking with my friends and I'd turn around and say, "There's going to be an accident here." And like 30 seconds later, boom, there's a head on collision right behind me. These things happened often. And I was always at the right place at the right time.
Crazy.
To see this stuff, I don't know if you want to call it the right place at the right time, but
But
anyway,
yeah,
that's something we could. I wouldn't mind talking with you about later, Eric. Is like, did
definitely.
she sense this stuff? Because it happens even up to a couple of years ago when people
Well,
were having conversations, and all of a sudden you get this
what
this.
I'll do is I'll ask her. She's got Alzheimer's now, right? She just turned
Okay,
80, right?
okay,
So, but I don't know if I can give you a for sure answer. This is like I
okay.
said too.
That's no
This is
problem.
before I was born, right? Like that all happened. But I will definitely, I'll ask her for you, then we can
Yeah,
definitely get into that too, offline or online.
Yeah,
cool. That'd be
definitely.
great. That'd be
Yeah.
great. As I learned, oh, I got stuff popping up here. My apologies. As
No,
I
you're good.
learned um, to navigate a little better, it just continued as I was a teenager, and my family were programmed. My sisters were programmed to teach me to treat me a certain way, right? And is like I
Mhm.
became the ultimate people pleaser as a kid. I made them feel better about themselves, and I got breadcrumbs and a pat on the back, and that's how it went my entire life. Um,
Mhm.
and it was that was my job. That's who I believed I was. Um, that kind of person, regardless of who I am and my needs were. It was somebody else's needs that were more important, and that's what was projected, and that's the role I took on, and I took that in through all my relationships. Every serious relationship was with a narcissist, every single one of them. The mother of my children, she was a alcoholic, drug addict, narcissist, and I don't. She had went through a lot of traumas and stuff like this, but she was unable to navigate without projecting and being abusive and hurtful to the children and neglectful and stuff. And I just couldn't tolerate that stuff. So I just, no, you need to get out. And then I
Mhm.
took her to court for and got sole custody and guardianship of my children, and
Good for
we were
you.
on our way because I couldn't I couldn't allow her to take custody of the kids, even though I told her that when she moves out and then she establishes herself, then she could have the kids. I lied to her because I just wanted her to get out. And then I went to court and got, I wrote down everything. I took notes. I copied everything down. So if anybody is ever in a position, take notes, journal stuff, take notes,
Yep.
save emails,
Mhm.
all the stuff, communicate all your things, and get them to express themselves. Because when you need to go to court to say this, it's there, and it's really
You know what I
important.
used to do
What's that?
for the paperwork when I took notes is I used to put down even like the weather that day. You know what I mean? I just
Yeah,
to have that, right? To know like, like that I just didn't make this up, that
Just
was
to
the weather. They
validate
can
it.
go back,
Yeah.
validate it
yeah,
exactly. So
yeah,
have little things like that too, right?
yeah.
That's
It's
my
it's
Document
hope.
it was really
everything. Yeah.
important.
Yeah. Document
Mhm.
it
And
all.
I just got custody all 3 weeks now, right, of
Yeah.
my daughter, and it's been awesome, man. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
it's
Congratulations.
been, yeah. So thank you.
So let me ask you, Ed, you
Yeah.
said that like every relationship you had growing up was with a narcissist. Do you feel like it was because it was something that you understood because that's what you grew up in, so it was familiar?
It's yeah. It was literally that's exactly it. That's all
Mhm.
I ever knew.
Yeah.
And I needed that validation. I needed to help people through their shit to make me
Mhm.
feel better about myself.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But I never got what I gave, because I would give the unconditional love. I would give the shirt off my back. I was like that. I would make them feel better about themselves. I always looked at them for what their potential was,
Yeah.
and that
I
But did
was
was
the
you
the
big
same
that
expect
way.
was the big
something
thing.
back? Did you
I
expect something
wanted
back?
I wanted that love. I
Okay.
friggin' was hungry for it. I wanted that
Yeah.
love, that attention. But when you're brought up, that the only demonstration of love was physical intimacy, right? That was it. So there
Yeah.
was no emotional intimacy. There was no spiritual intimacy. There was no well, there was basic intellectual intimacy, because that's,
Yeah.
I find that attractive in women. But anyway, there's nothing that that was my idea of intimacy was sex. So
Mhm.
that was um, I found myself in the greatest job. Um, I was assistant manager of a strip club.
Nice.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
yeah, but in new women in every week. I mean, it was in your 20s. It was a really good job, but emotionally, it was absolutely tragic. Right? I mean, it really was. I mean, sure, I had a lot of fun, met a lot of people and stuff like this, but
It's not
now,
the right place you wanna be growing
yeah,
up.
I mean, the
Yeah.
energy is really just a low frequency dark energy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people having their own issues, and we're codependent. Like, they'll get intimacy, I'll get intimacy, we'll fulfill that, and then gone, and then
Mhm.
they'll see him again in like 3 weeks or 3 months or something like that. And it was just a cycle that kept going.
And not knocking that, not all, right? But I'm saying there's drugs, alcohol, there's
Oh
all this
yeah,
other stuff
there's
happening
yeah
there, right? So,
yeah, there's a
there's
lot
gang
going on.
activity, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? So it's not really ideal for someone if you wanna grow.
yeah, and that was a long time ago. That was 30 years
Yeah.
ago. It's a different thing now. I'm sure they're
Yeah.
but yeah, I every relationship, even when I was in nursing, I ended up with a nursing student that was ended up dating and living with a nursing student that was a year ahead of me, and she was a narcissist as well. And I didn't recognize narcissism or narcissistic traits in people. I just saw them as broken, and they needed my help.
Mhm.
And I did everything I can until I was absolutely drained, and I had no energy. I could barely freaking breathe, and I couldn't function. And that was the roller coaster ride. That was a cycle I kept living over and over and over again in all my relationships, and it destroyed me. I
Would you
was
have to say codependent?
Oh yes,
'Cause
oh god,
usually
yeah,
that follows hand in
huge.
hand with, like,
Yeah,
fixing people's codependent,
yeah.
right?
Oh yeah, it is, because you like, with my even with my wife, and I'll admit this, but like, I after the mother of my children left, I was single for 10 years raising my kids, because
Mhm.
I was so broken, I was so damaged, and I tried to heal, and I thought I was doing really well, and then I said, okay, well, what am I going to do? I want to show these kids what a real relationship looks like. So I went and I started looking into it, and I went, oh well, the Filipinos, they're the top run of family and love and loyalty and all this stuff. Okay, narcissism does not know gender or your ethnicity at all. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter. Your your thank you, race, the products of your environment, and when you're you know um, abused to the point where you become a narcissist, or you're entitled to the point of becoming a narcissist. My ex had wanted to come to Canada, and I facilitated that, and it took several
Mhm.
years. I was investing money in her and stuff like this, and I was on a disability pension, but I was still helping her out
Yeah.
while
It's a
she was
whole
going to school.
process.
It
Yeah.
is, it is,
Yeah.
and she nailed me, because she got her hooks in me and love bombed the crap out of me,
Yeah.
and tested me out, and sure enough, I fell right hook, line, and sinker, like I always
Yeah.
did.
Put you
And
on
when
a
I got her,
pedestal and told you you're the best and
oh
all that,
yeah,
and then as
the
soon as she was
greatest,
settled, that
strongest
was it.
man, blah blah blah. Oh yeah, it was
Yeah.
just the love of my life, and you make me so happy, and and they know what to do. A narcissist
Mhm.
knows what to do,
Mhm.
because that's their bread and butter.
Yep.
That's how they
Yep.
navigate
Survive,
their
yeah.
existence, exactly. So I brought her to Canada. We're stepping ahead of a lot of other crap in relationships, but the bulk of it is that this was what I thought I was worth. Right. This. I was so broken and damaged, and had such low self worth, that I felt this is what I deserved. This is the only thing I've ever experienced was this kind
You
of
know better. That was
I
it.
was a human juice
Yeah.
box when it came to energy and making other people feel better about themselves, and it sucked. It was a poor
Mm.
quality of
And you
life,
know what
poor
I heard?
existence.
I heard a quote the other day, like, and I can relate to it. So, and it sounds kind of relative to what you're saying. The way you show up for people is the way that you wish someone showed up for you when you were as a kid. So
Yes.
you try to do the healing for yourself by doing it for other people.
Yep.
Hmm.
Very accurate.
Yeah.
And when I did when I dove into my psilocybin and did that, that is, you couldn't have nailed it more than that. I was like, that's a home run right there, because that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I was on medications for 17 years, on different kinds of medications, almost at a point 9 a day, 9 different medications, and several of them, 2 or 3 of them, were just for the side effects of the medication I was taking. It was a band-aid solution to a horrific
That's
problem.
crazy.
Yeah,
I
so
That's
that's
don't
all.
crazy.
Yeah,
I
that
don't
it's
understand the prescription system. Like I don't
yeah,
I
it's not
to
very
me
good.
there's no fucking way that it is healthy for any human being to be on that level. I don't give a shit what the dose is,
No,
but like that, like any assortment of medications, like even when my dad had open heart surgery, it was the same thing. Like folic acid, yes, I get. But then he's on other ones to prevent his stomach from bleeding, but then it's this other one to prevent the bleeding in it on his heart because the other one makes his stomach like it's fucked. And it's like
I know it's
no
a vicious
human,
cycle
yeah,
of
no
side
human
effects.
should be
Yeah,
on any kind like that level of fucking medication, in my opinion. Like it's
Yeah.
insane, man.
yeah. I thank God the doctor retired, and I got a new doctor, and we took a look, and he asked what I wanted to do, and I said I want off of this crap because I feel like garbage. I can't function. I
Hmm.
can't function. I can't stand up quickly without falling down. I mean, I just like my brain feels like it's spinning inside my head. I mean, I don't like this. This is not what I want. So we pulled off a lot of medications. We went to the bare bones, and um, brilliant patient advocate. He's so fucking awesome, and he helped me navigate this stuff, and he really uh, believed in the fact that I was so focused on trying to navigate this and try to better myself, so I could continue to be productive, and I could find a relationship that best suits me, because I was not functioning. And who do I say? Like, hey, yes, okay, well, I'm on disability pension. Yeah, well, I'm bipolar. You want to date? I mean, like there are so many stigmas associated with this that
Mm.
people wouldn't even want to have a conversation with you. They wouldn't
Hmm.
even want to stand beside you in a bus stop. I mean, just that's the way it was, and it was so much projection of energy. I shut down. I couldn't function. I would go to the grocery store, but I would have to talk myself into going to the grocery store. And then sometimes I would talk myself out of going there. And then I would have to talk myself back into it just to get groceries and stuff for the kids. I mean, it was such brutal self sabotaging, and I couldn't function. Like, I just really couldn't function. And just to have a conversation with people outside of my home was something I dreaded. I just dreaded people's energy, and I couldn't look at them. I couldn't talk to them. Nothing. Now I'm a completely different person. Like 3 years ago, I wouldn't be able to be here. I couldn't sit here and talk about these things. Or even 6 months ago, I might have struggled to talk about these things. But it was just a matter of that catalyst that
Hmm.
did it. That psilocybin. That was the catalyst. It's huge. I mean, there are 3 ways you can take a look at having. I mean, it was basically cut and dry. It was a spiritual awakening. That's
Hmm.
what the psilocybin did. Um, you can go through massive amounts of trauma and have a spiritual awakening, or you can be in the presence of somebody that is completely healed and conscious, and they'll trigger you into healing and into a spiritual awakening if that's where you're at. Or you can do psilocybin, or a combination of them, and that was a combination that worked for me. I did all my research. I spent years trying to figure out what to do and how to do it, and navigated this and that, and did my research and talked to the doctors, and finally said, okay, well, I have 2 choices: magnetic. Like, I even did 15 shock treatments.
Well, hold on there. I don't want to go that far yet. I don't want
Okay.
to go that far
Okay.
yet. Yeah, yeah, we're getting a little too far.
Okay.
I want
Sorry.
to. No, you're good. You're good, man. We got another whole episode too, so don't worry. But we'll
Yeah.
Yeah.
touch on that a little bit at the end, more at the end there.
Yeah, I
I
did.
want
I
to
did
kind of,
everything. I
yeah,
did everything I could. Did shock treatments, the whole 9 yards, and that just screwed up my memory. It
yeah,
just, yeah, it wasn't fun. I mean, I was a nurse, so we had patients that would do shock treatments a couple of times a year, and they would be perfect, right? Like they weren't delusional or anything else. Not that I was delusional, but yeah, I did all the treatments that I could, anything I could try to figure out so I could be the
just
better parent.
grasping for everything to
Yeah,
just to
anything
make,
to
yeah,
work because my existence was horrific.
yeah,
It was non-functionable. I couldn't do it. I
Well,
couldn't
and
keep doing it.
this is like why we do this too, because like we love having an array of guests on who have utilized different tools in their life to gain I don't want to say the same outcome, but essentially get themselves to a place of like self-awareness that they have the ability to come onto this show and talk about the things, right? Like for
Yeah,
example, like I've had spiritual experiences and spiritual awakenings, but I've had them as a result of working a 12-step program, right? And
right.
it's kind of like you said, I got connected with someone who had already had one, and I learned and understood it through somebody else's experience and related it to my own, right? And on the same note, like psilocybin, unfortunately for me, is not a thing that I can do because I'm a drug addict. So I don't do anything out of excess. Like everything I do is in excess. So I can't microdose anything. That's what I've learned through my own experiences is that like I will excessively use anything. And it's not just drugs and alcohol. I think we talked about this with Wes last week, right? Like it's not just drugs and alcohol. It can be people, it can be my phone, it can be
mm-hmm,
Netflix, like
Yes.
anything. Like I
yeah.
can numb out the same way
Any.
utilizing different things.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's why I love this platform because we get to have people on, like for example, you who can utilize psilocybin in a medicinal way, but then also have me on who's had probably very similar spiritual awakenings and experiences without those types of drugs and whatever, right? And still come to a very similar outcome with the same thing. That's why I fucking love this platform, and that's why I love talking to people like you because it's like I'm not closed minded to any of this shit. Like I thoroughly love hearing about this and enjoy talking about it because it's so neat to see how people got to where they are. Like I
Mm-hmm.
I say this all the time, man. Everybody's got a fucking story, and that's why I love when we get emails and people reach out. Like we don't filter shit, like we want to hear how the fuck you got from point A, which was not great, to point B. So thank you for coming on and sharing these experiences, first of all. But yeah, this is what I love.
Thank you for having me.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for me, like
Yeah,
I
man.
know psilocybin probably isn't going to work for me, but I've come to a pretty good level of self-awareness through the results of working a 12-step program.
Cool.
So yeah, man.
Anthony, may I respond to your comments?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Have you talked to a a facilitator of psilocybin for addictions?
I have not. Just so it's hard for me to talk about certain things on here just out of respect for the program that I work. But
Okay.
essentially, the way the program works is complete abstinence from all mind altering substances. Um, it would have to be like a last ditch effort kind of thing for me to get to something like that. I work with a sponsor, so I kind of have to utilize like what's available. And there's some people in 12-step programs who wholeheartedly believe that like if you work 12-step program properly, you don't need to be medicated. I don't necessarily agree with that statement just based off the fact that sometimes there is outside disorders, right? Like bipolar or BPD or just natural
Yeah.
chemical imbalances in the brain. And
Yes.
I'm sorry, but like, don't get me wrong. Like I'm spiritual. I believe in a higher power, but praying to my higher power isn't going to fix a chemical imbalance in my brain, no matter how hard I pray. It
Yeah.
just, it doesn't work like that. Right. So,
Yeah.
so we try to avoid going that route, but it's such a fucking weird route, man, because like, if you look at it, like drugs like heroin and cocaine and even fentanyl, like they were medicinal, they were like
Mm-hmm.
prescription drugs before they were street drugs, right? Like
Right.
cocaine is still used in hospitals for oral surgeries. So like it's a really weird thing. They also have like other drugs. Like I remember when I first got sober, I had broke my wrist at work and I was driving to the hospital and I called my sponsor and I'm like freaking out. I'm like, man, like I don't want them to give me pain meds. Like, I don't want to do any
Oh
drugs.
yeah,
And he's just like,
yeah,
fucking relax. First of all, he's like, you're going to be fine. But he said, he's like, they have like alternatives for people who are like concerned about taking narcotics. So they have like, fuck, what's the word? Like synthetic, pain meds that aren't narcotics that
right.
like don't transcend as
Opiates.
addictive. Yeah. As opiates. That's right. Yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, we try to utilize other things before we kind of resort to that. Now, in saying that, like it depends what program you work. Like I know people in certain program, like certain programs that only say that you can't do A, right? But other people can utilize. Like I know people who use like medicinal marijuana and stuff, and that's great for them. It's just like I found a solution that works for me without utilizing any of those things, right?
Yeah, I totally understand.
Mhm.
I was just curious. I've tried to set up a meeting with this this um, this lady at Vancouver Island University, who is the leading doctor in the psilocybin treatments that's now being recognized all
Mhm.
around the world. And they just had a seminar in Vancouver. I think it was the 20th or 22nd or something like this of October. I was trying to get to, but never got the opportunity to do that. And anyway, I reached out to her, and the reason I brought this up is because doing my research. Or I'm replying to your comment, is during my research, I saw that they've been incredible success in addictions
Mhm.
and doing microdoses and stuff like this, and like
Hmm.
cigarette smoke. Like nicotine is like one of the most addictive chemicals.
That's
And
all I got left,
I got a
man. Yeah.
friend,
Yep.
I got a friend that I was when I was in nursing and I was doing my research on on um, addictions. I had to write a paper, and she was addicted to heroin and stuff. And she says it was really really hard, and but she says I've tried to quit smoking, and it's no there's no
Hmm.
way I can do it. I just can't do it.
Mhm.
I
It is
just quit
such a
3 weeks
heavy
ago
addiction. Yeah, all the
with
power.
my
Yeah, you're
daughter.
saying it. All the power to you, man.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to kick.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing. I
Yeah.
smoked when I was
Well,
younger because my parents
she
smoked in the
moved
house.
in.
So
Well, she moved in, and then she asked me, "Dad, can you please quit smoking?" So that minute, man, that was it. I quit.
cool.
I am vaping, but I have no nicotine now in my thing. So it's just that it's the hand to mouth right now,
Yeah,
and then it's a matter of breaking that, and then I'm completely
yeah.
like I am nicotine free right now. It's just I
Awesome.
forget what it's called. Yeah, it's just the vapor.
Nice. They they have that was the one of the first things that I recognized. It was a research paper that was put out at Oxford University that they've been microdosing for nicotine and addictions and stuff, and it just ends your nicotine cravings and stuff. So maybe it resets the serotonin reabsorption in your brain. Maybe I'm not exactly sure. I didn't get that in depth of the research, but I was really surprised. So that's why I decided to go that way. And my doctor jumped up and down and said, "Yes, yes, yes, do the psilocybin." So and then that's the rest is history. But yeah, it was really really difficult. One thing I wanted to mention, and I'm sorry I got off track. I wanted to mention this,
No, that's okay, man.
but in regards to the rate of I don't know if I told you, but the rate of in nursing, I got a lot of information when I went to nursing, and a lot of people did papers and stuff. And we always talked, but one of the papers was on types of child abuse, and she wrote a paper saying that 1 in 4 girls, and this was 25 years ago, that 1 in 4 girls are molested as children. And then I was doing
Disgusting.
this research, and 1 in 3 boys are molested as children. The rate of
Disgusting.
molestation is higher in boys than it actually is in girls,
Hmm.
and I was actually pretty shocked to hear that. But so there's a lot of people that could use some help
Mhm.
out there.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Um,
1 in 3 is pretty a pretty staggering number,
I
and
would
that
like to
comes
touch
right out of
on.
sorry.
I would like to actually go back a little bit and touch on your whole like when you brought your the lady over here, and what was happening with her, like with the Mercury and stuff. We can touch on
Okay,
that.
yeah, yeah, we'll get right into that. Yeah, I brought her over, and like I said, I wanted to demonstrate because my family was no shining light of family dynamics and support by any stretch of the imagination. So my family didn't We were never, my kids and I were never invited over to my parents' place for dinner, ever. Never. We had
Mhm.
family gatherings now and then, but usually I was the one that was putting them on and invited my family over, but we were never invited over. My kids and I were never invited over for dinner
To there.
unless it was to their house, to my parents' house,
Yeah.
or anything.
Yeah.
And that's, it sucks, but I knew that the less exposure my kids had to my family, the better off they're going to be. So
Mhm.
it was sad, but that's the reality. That's
I'm like
the
that with my dad.
relationship that I had with my family. Um,
Mhm.
and I mean, it got to the point with them, and I'll step right into my ex-wife once you get a clear indication of what the support system was like in my family. I was at the point before I met my wife, that I was at my wits end. I had no support. I had nothing. I was raising two kids on a disability pension, and I was so broken. I couldn't function. The depression was so bad. I could barely get out of bed. I take kids to school, and I go to bed, and I get up, and I hang with the kids. We do our things, and then I would vanish to a computer game, or I just go to bed and do my thing. But I decided, okay, I need to change this. I need to educate my family. So I spent days writing a paper, and it was maybe 6, maybe 8 pages long, about how to support family members living with and the challenges of mental health issues. And I had my entire family come over except for my dad. He didn't come over. And I gave him this, and I presented all this stuff, and I talked about it, and I did this, and I asked them, please, I need somebody to be here for me. I need somebody to show up like once a week to make sure I'm breathing, to make sure I'm functioning, to make, like, I really need this right now. Please.
Mhm.
I was literally holding my mother's legs when she was leaving, begging her to call me once a week, begging, and not a single person showed up for me. Not one person.
I'm
I
sorry
think I
about
might have
that,
called
buddy.
once, the following week, but no, but my, pleading with my family, like, hey, I really need you
Mhm.
right now because I'm struggling. I'm not finding a way inside to keep moving forward. So
Mhm.
please, and not a single show, not a single one. That's the abandonment and emotional abandonment that I was experiencing in my life. So it was pretty significant. And I found my wife, and she recognized the uh, the problem, and she took advantage of that. So she gave me the attention I was seeking at the cost of my own energy and stuff. So I spent a couple of years getting her to Canada, and I visited her 4 times. Um, the second time we got engaged, did the whole, asked her father to marry daughter, and so on and so forth, and very religious Catholic family, and you know had a great time. They all liked me. I liked them. There was a communication gap because some of the family members didn't speak English, so I had to have her translate some of the things. And anyway,
Mhm.
a couple. The next trip I went, we got married in Manila, and then my next trip was just a regular vacation, and then we saved all the money to get her to Canada, sold my motorcycle and stuff, and sent her money, and did everything we needed to do. And in the meantime, she's literally busted her a couple of times, um, communicating with other guys, while we were communicating. And when I met her, she was a virgin. And when after we were engaged in the next trip, like when we were going to get married, she was no longer a virgin. So she was looking to get some academic rapport, I guess, from one
Mhm.
of her male instructors in the university she was going through. That's my guess, because that's the only thing that makes sense. And I pretty much trust my intuition at this point. And so that's what I'm dealing with. And I didn't have enough self respect to say, hey, screw you, get the hell out of here. I didn't
Mhm.
have. I just, like, this is what I deserve. I deserve the bare fucking minimum, because that's all
I've
I've
been
ever
there,
known.
brother. I've been
That's
there
all I ever
myself.
known.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I got her to Canada, and I'm not sure if you're familiar. You have to be in cohabitation for 2 years once you come to
Mhm.
Canada, or else you get
Yep.
sent back to your country of origin. And that's what happened. We did that. And after the 2 years, I started getting sick. I started getting sick. Couldn't figure out what the problem was. Digestive system wasn't working. My feet started bothering me. I started getting numbness and tingling and pain and stuff like this in my feet. I started developing peripheral neuropathy because I was being diagnosed now as a pre-diabetic. And I'm like, well,
Shit.
that doesn't make a lot of sense. I've been an athlete and healthy all my life.
Mhm.
I smoked when I was, for a few years when I was younger, and then I quit that. And, I was, you know, 40 years old, and I was doing summer training camp with 20-year-old hockey players in the boxing club, and I could keep up with them like no problem. So I was an athlete from like the bulk of my life. And the I didn't understand it. And anyway, the digestive system started collapsing. I couldn't digest food, so they started giving me prescription medications and stuff like this, trying to figure out, here, take this. You need to be able to digest your food, and it was barely doing the job. And these are prescription enzymes, so they're like $800 a month just to be able to eat.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
even then, it was barely working. And I started recognizing patterns, and I'm not sure if you've talked to anybody or if you know anybody that has peripheral neuropathy, but at night it's really, really active, and it's really stabbing, like screaming pain in the middle of the night when you wake up. You can't have sheets on your feet or nothing because it's so freaking painful.
Do you mind just explaining what peripheral
Mhm.
neuropathy is, just for our
Sure.
listeners?
Okay. Well, peripheral neuropathy happens usually associated with diabetes, and increase or deep, well, too much sugar in your system. Basically, what happens is the filaments in your capillaries, they start blocking, and it cuts down the blood flow to the nervous system, like to the nerves, because they have these little blood vessels, that's capillaries, that attach to it, and when they get blocked, your nerve does not get um, blood supply. So it ends up, the sheath on it ends up dying, and then you're exposed to raw nerve, and that's where it starts happening. That's where you start
Mm.
getting your pain and your numbness and stuff, and then you start um, not being able to determine hot and cold and stuff like this, or else it will enhance the pain and stuff like that. So it's really difficult. It got to the point where I was unable to walk more than just 100 feet or so without even, I even had to have a cane, and going downstairs and upstairs and stuff like that was not the easiest task either. But that's how it affected you. Musicians, it's such a tragic thing when people are musicians and they play the guitar or any instrument and they get peripheral neuropathy in their hands and stuff
Mm.
like that. I mean, it is such a terrible way to lose your ability to play, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's heartbreaking, right? I can imagine how depressive and how their mental health and their emotional health are after losing your ability to play something that you're so passionate about. And it was profound being an athlete and not being able to walk around the block with your
Yeah.
kids or walk them to school, and stuff
Mhm.
like that. It was really hard. Um, and what has happened is she was putting mercury or something that had a component of mercury in it, because that's what I tested positive for, and it was being put in
That's
my food.
crazy.
And I recognized patterns after
That's
after this all
crazy,
came to a
man.
head, and because I started doing my research on, because I couldn't figure out what the problem was, and I spent 2 years with the doctors working on it, doing tests, surgery, the whole nine yards. I mean, I did all sorts of stuff to try to figure it out, and the last the diagnosis was it was chemical. Something chemical was causing this problem, because my pancreas was fine. Everything seems to be fine. There's nothing to show that there's disease or tumors or anything. So the doctor says chemical. I went, okay. And then all of a sudden, these flags and shit started going off. And I thought it was my medication. And so I went through the farm with the pharmacist and the doctors about all the medication and all this stuff. And don't forget, I was now a serious introvert for like 15 years,
Mhm.
14 years prior, 15 years prior to this, I couldn't go out. So where would I be exposed to mercury? And I
Yeah.
shaved my
Yeah.
head. I've been shaving my head for like 20 years. That's how I tested. I grew my hair out and pulled
Hair
out like
follicle.
150 hair follicles
Mhm.
to get tested. But I was unable to digest foods, and I wasn't producing the enzymes or the insulin and stuff like this, which has caused the pre-diabetes. And I was struggling, and I thought I was going to die. I thought that was it. I was by the Christmas time I'd be dead. That's what I figured I was going to do. So I bought a car, and a new car and stuff like this. And the insurance says, well, if you die, it's paid off. I was okay. Well, there you go. There's $50,000 for the kids.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If I go right. I mean, this is what I was
Mhm.
planning. I'm like, okay, how am I going to do this?
Wait,
And
how did that affect your mental health? Like planning everything like that?
it
That must have
was
been hard on you.
it was really it was not knowing why, and having so much trauma suppressed in the depression. It was really hard, but because I didn't want I didn't feel ready to leave my kids yet.
Yeah.
Like
But
I
even
really
like the
didn't.
uncertainty too, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I
Of like,
didn't
is
know.
it
Yeah.
no, yeah.
I
That
just
that
didn't know.
alone
It
is
was it
just
was
like,
it was it was scary as hell. It was painful.
yeah.
It was. It, I didn't. I at the time I was barely wanting to exist anyway.
Mhm.
But that was just another brick on the friggin' load of weight of pain of
It's crazy,
depression.
man.
It was so much. It was just so much. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go. I accept it. Fine. I've been thinking about this for freaking years. So if I'm gonna
Mhm.
go, I'm gonna go. So at least I'll try to do my best for my kids as much as I can. And then um, and then the doctor says chemical. And about a week later, I said to my wife, I says, when I die, I'm going to have my family perform a tox screen on me because I want to see what's killing me. And her response was completely shocking. Her response to me, and this is a quote, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that?
Crazy. Why
Okay.
wouldn't you?
Your spouse tells you, okay, I'm dying. I'm think I'm going to be gone by Christmas time, and when I die, I want to find out what's killing me. And your spouse says, why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense.
After a doctor tells you it's a chemical,
After your
Yeah.
doctor tells you it's a
Yeah.
chemical exposure, big flag went up, huge flag.
So
And then
did
I
they
start.
did they test you though? The doctors test you or like,
They test it because they wouldn't test me.
okay,
Like
that's what I wanted
they
to
totally
hear.
dropped
Yeah.
the ball. They
Yeah.
totally dropped the ball because who sees this? You see this shit in movies,
Mhm.
yeah,
right? You don't
Yeah.
see this in real life. You
No.
don't, but we're talking narcissism, right? We're talking narcissism. We're not talking people that empathy and compassion and this stuff. They don't have a heart. They don't have a soul. Well, they
just
probably do, but it's in a dark little place.
Yeah.
self-serving. That's
Yeah,
all it
it
is.
is. It is. She got to Canada, and that's all she wanted. Now she can do whatever the hell she wants because she's got a permanent resident card.
Yeah. She
So did this
used you to
happen
go through,
immediately
yeah.
as soon as she got to Canada? Like this,
No, this is after the 2 years, and
so
then it started happening.
she got the residency, and then
Yeah.
it sounds really shitty saying it like this, but she didn't need you anymore.
No, she didn't need me anymore. I mean, she could have left, but why would you subject somebody to that? Why would you just not? Unless she got an
I don't
insurance
fucking
policy
know,
on me
man.
or something. I don't know. Who knows? Like, I just don't know. But um, the doctor dropped the ball. I'm going to be straight up with that. He's retired now. He quit, and he probably had another 10 years of working as a doctor, but he quit. He retired. Imagine that right after. Anyway, so so let's stay on point here. Sorry,
Mhm.
I have a little bit of sarcastic humor and a little anger. I think suppressed anger about the situation because not only did I talk to the doctors, but I also went to the RCMP and they just blamed me. Said, "Go, there's a mental ward over there. You're bipolar." Go, no, I was the victim, but yet they completely fucking didn't pay attention to anything I had to say. I even had my son there with me because I needed some support. I mean, I just realized that this mercury was in my system. But
That's
let's not jump the
insane.
gun here. Let's go
I'm
back
just
to.
I'm actually just trying to see what, like, I'm looking on here right now, just try to see like what it actually does to you, like what like the whole
It affects so much. Oh,
Just
um,
before we go any farther, I just want to kind of give the viewers of like what exactly
oh,
how it,
sure, please.
yeah, like what it does, like the effects of everything. Did it like make you like tired? Did it like just drain you?
I
Throwing
was,
up?
yeah, I was constant, constant headaches, cramps, diarrhea, like explosive diarrhea. Like I didn't have enzymes to digest my food. So I literally had to wear a diaper sometimes. And I was 12 feet from the toilet. I couldn't go outside. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't go anywhere
That's insane,
because
man.
if I had even the smallest thing, I was having, the worst physical symptoms and, emotional. Like if you've ever heard of, um, uh, gold panners and stuff, and they use mercury, and they would go mad. I mean, they're emotionally
Yeah.
friggin' like
Hmm.
gone, and that's what started to happen to me. I started experiencing emotional roller coaster. I was deeper depression. I was reacting emotionally in ways that I would normally not react. Like I was easily triggered to rage, but then I was felt like that was the product of what my that was what my father did. Everything was
Hmm.
rage with him. Everything was that's an emotional explosion. Um, and that's those are the things. But it was there was more thoughts toward um, tapping out, and there was lots of
Hmm.
mental fog and confusion and headaches and literally on the verge of migraines. Every single day was a new adventure in pain, not just
And
physically but
questions too,
emotionally.
right?
Yeah,
And the
I couldn't
questions
I
you're
couldn't
asking
get
yourself.
years trying to figure out what the hell was going on, and nobody knew anything. Nobody could put a finger on
Hmm.
it, and that was so hard to navigate. That was so hard to navigate because it's like, oh man, what am I going to do? This is it. You
Hmm.
either accept it or you don't. And I was like, okay, well, how can I better my family if I'm with the time I have left, and experience with them. And it was difficult. And knowing the things that I know now, and coming from a place of a healed soul, and healed self, I wish I had the opportunity to go back, not just, I mean, the choices I made with my ex and all this stuff. I would rather, spend more quality time with my kids and stuff than I did. But I was such an emotional basket case, like such a mess. I couldn't function. And like I said, the gold panners and stuff, and then like Mad Hatter. If you've ever heard the comment to Mad Hatter, is just that
Yep.
he had Mercury, I think, in the band and stuff like this or
Yep.
something. Anyway, and that would drive them crazy. And this was prominent in my exposure. And that's
Hmm.
why the doctor says, oh, you're delusional, you're crazy. And the cops and stuff, they're all, you're delusional, you're crazy. But I had already recognized at that point what was happening. I already got rid of her. But it was,
Technically, you
How
were
did that
delusional
go?
and crazy, but it
I
wasn't
was.
your fucking fault.
No,
Yeah.
no, it wasn't. I actually checked into the hospital once. I was so bad that I went, no, I need to go to the hospital.
Hmm.
And that's the only time my entire family came to the hospital to see me go crazy.
Really?
Yeah. That's the
Really?
only time. They all
Fuck.
came to the hospital and sat beside me like they cared. It's pathetic. It's
Mm.
I don't know if they were expecting it or what. I have absolutely no idea. I don't understand these things. Your questions I still have to this day. But do I want to waste my energy and my time on them, on understanding their behavior? And no, there's their programming,
Hmm.
their journey. They get to do whatever they want. I'm going to
That's
heal
right.
me. I don't give a rat's ass. I don't
Fuck
care.
yeah,
I've
man.
severed all the connections to them. They don't exist in my life anymore, and that's that. And I'm proud of my decision and my position, and I'll do
Fuck
it again
yeah.
if I have to, because if they don't see me for who I am and what I bring to the table and what I offer, then screw them,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm what am I? I'm fucking awesome.
That a boy.
So
Got him, man.
Fuck yeah,
Yeah,
man.
man. Fuck yeah.
so yeah, I mean, I come and I bring unconditional love and authenticity and truth, and that's who I've always been. But they suppressed all that because they couldn't stand to be in that
Hmm.
presence. Narcissists can't handle that shit. If you're a happy kid, well, they're just gonna beat you emotionally.
Hmm.
Hmm.
That's what they did. And now I if I think one of the things I wanted to say is, if I had the opportunity to go back and do it all over again, would I? Yes, I would. Just because of where I am now.
100%.
Just because of where I am now and how much I've
Yeah.
grown with the psilocybin and everything else. It was worth that experience, and I couldn't understand until probably the last 6 months that was creating who I
Mhm.
was, and I'm really really happy with who I am. So I'm there, but I
No
might have gotten off
regrets,
topic,
man,
and I
because
apologize. I do that from
No,
everything
time
that's
to time.
okay, man.
No, you're good,
Go
man.
ahead, Eric.
But no regrets, you know what I mean? Because like everything
Yeah,
that you go through in your life, everything from like I did a lot of bad stuff, you know what I mean? Like I was involved with the gangs and stuff, and I shit you not, I did a lot of bad things. Do I regret it? No. Do I feel bad at those things? Yes, 100%. And I am sorry that I did do those things. I was a punk. At the end of the day, I was a young punk. But it's put me today in this chair in front of my webcam, here with you guys and making this podcast trying to help people, right? If I didn't
that's it
go
right
do
there.
those things, I'd be somewhere else in life. Who knows? Maybe I'll be so, what, but at this moment in time, I'm happy where I'm sitting right now. I'm happy at what I'm doing, and I'm happy reaching out and helping people. So I
Yeah.
have
Fuck
no
right, man.
regrets of what I did in my life. Definitely. And you can't. I mean, those are lessons. You
No,
got to take those as
you got to
lessons.
forgive yourself. You got to forgive
100%.
yourself. Yeah.
100%. I do want to know though, how did the exit plan go there with your ex-wife?
Uh, Interesting. When I recognized what I was dealing with, and it took some time, the flag started coming up with that comment about what
Mhm.
doesn't make any sense. And I started doing research. I actually went in and did some research on spousal abuse and poisonings and stuff like this, and
Mhm.
flags to watch for. And they all came up, all the flags. Um, Making meals for you and not eating the same meal. I've caught her mixing stuff in the things I use, like brown sugars and stuff like this. I started seeing these things. My We had the vibrating toothbrushes, right? Like Oral B
Mhm.
toothbrushes and stuff like this. And then all of a sudden, my they had replaced my toothbrush and with the new one, even though it was only like a month old. But then I would end up getting sicker. So I don't
Mhm.
know if there was. I didn't even check to see if there was anything actually inside that. And being a nursing student, I had a really old stethoscope, a blood pressure cuff.
Mhm.
Sorry, and I can't remember the proper name for it. Oh, my instructor's going to slap me. Sorry about that. I don't remember the proper name of it. Oh goodness, sorry.
Uh-oh.
There's a term for it, but it's been like 20 years, so I'm allowed to have that forgetfulness. And
Yeah.
having 15 ECTs, my memory's all gone, because that's the part of the problem when you do electric shock treatments, is you end
Mhm.
up getting memory loss, and some of the stuff after 15 is just never coming back. And I can understand that. I've accepted that. That's fine. I mean, there's just different parts of my life that I would rather have kept, but and got rid of other stuff. But you
Yeah.
can't pick and choose, right?
Mhm.
So anyway, when she was making, she would make coffee, and then, but she would make instant coffee for herself, but when I made coffee, she would drink it. She would make multiple dinners, and her excuse was, "Well, your digestive system is sensitive, so I'm going to make you this, and then everybody else would have this."
But is it
And
really? Or is she just making this up?
she's just using whatever excuses that she can to
Okay. But
to do
try
it. I
and
mean,
that's the hard thing too, though. It's like you got all these different ways that she could be poisoning you in this house.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that you're saying, like, and that's what I was thinking about when you said from like the toothbrush to the coffee. I mean, who knows, man? Like, I don't know how, like, if it's only got to be injected like into your system in your
Well,
mouth, or can it be just even touched? Like I'm
mercury, yeah, mercury exposure, you can touch it. Ingesting it is the best way, and coffee and stuff like this,
the
powerful
best way.
flavors,
Yeah.
is is
Yeah.
is the best way.
In
And
quotations.
yeah,
Mhm.
whenever something has got a really strong flavor and spices and aromas and stuff like this, it will mask that. And you don't need much, because all you're doing is small traces, because if you
Mhm.
put too much, then systems are going to fail. You want them to
Yeah.
get sick and just die.
So she's trying to play the long game, is what it
Yeah,
was,
she was playing
really.
the long game, and it took
Yeah.
2.5 to 3 years. She was with me for 5 years, so we were married for 7 years,
Hmm.
and it literally took 3 years before I finally said enough is enough. And I didn't do drugs. I mean, I did experiment when I was younger. I tried things like cocaine, and I didn't try mushrooms or anything really other than that. I smoked cannabis, but I couldn't tolerate it. I was so paranoid. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. It was too much. I don't know if
Hmm.
things have changed because now I have cannabis now and then when I meditate and stuff, just a little bit, and that just puts me in that really nice Zen state of balance that I can go deep within and do my healing. But um, it was difficult. I kind of derailed my train of thought here. Sorry, gentlemen.
That's okay.
No, no, you're good, man.
I
So
I had I had two questions.
okay.
One, was your children living with you at this time?
Yes, they were with me, and it was really funny because this is just when it happened too. Thank you for triggering that. They wrote me a letter and said, "Dad, okay, you have to get rid of her, or we're leaving you because we can't handle what she's doing. She's literally torturing you. She is such a bad person." And I couldn't see it. My kids actually said, "Dad, we're going to leave if you don't get rid of her." And a week later, she was gone. But my friends, like I said, I didn't do drugs. Um, because I didn't want to be a statistic. I
Mhm.
forgive me. I don't want to be projecting anything negative, but I know that I was fully capable of drowning in this. But
Yep.
I
Hmm.
just said, my kids, they deserve better than this. I don't want to be a statistic. I don't want to do that.
Yep.
So I chose not to, and it didn't make me feel. It made me feel paranoid, and I didn't like the paranoia.
Hmm.
So but you remember Johnny Depp and his little situation with the courts and his narcissistic wife. That's when it kind of started exposing because some of the things that were happening because they started talking about narcissism. Like, I mean, I wouldn't have even known if this didn't happen. If this narcissism wasn't exposed in that court, and then other people were talking about different types of narcissism, I wouldn't have recognized this. I wouldn't have seen it. And I
So
started
that's
doing my
what got the
research.
ball rolling for you.
That's what got the
That's
ball rolling.
crazy.
I started my friend of mine is like, I got PTSD and I'm having my spiritual awakening and all this stuff. And I did my psilocybin and already done my psilocybin and my heroic doses and stuff like this. And I was waking up to the reality. It's like God says, slap you across the face and says, wake up or die. This is your choice now. And I had my awakening and I recognized the things that were going on. And I decided, okay, how am I going to deal with this? And I did my research and I approached her and I recorded it on my phone. And I said, okay, I can see you. I know what you are. I know who you are. And I explained everything to her. And I says, I'll give you 2 weeks. You touch anything and I'll throw you and your stuff out. You mess with the kids. I didn't say it that way. I said, you fuck with me or my kids or anything
Hmm.
of mine, I will throw you out the door and
Buddy,
all
this
your
is raw,
stuff.
man. You can say
Yeah.
That's
whatever
it.
you want, brother.
You're
Don't worry
done.
about it.
But I was very calm. I wasn't aggressive or anything. I was very calm because I didn't want this to
Hmm.
be twisted,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I
Exactly.
knew
You
what I'm
give a
dealing with
Fuck,
now.
good
reaction.
for
You
you,
give a
And I
man.
reaction
recorded it too. I
towards you.
recorded it now. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
you're done. And then
Yeah.
I got on the phone and I called my mother and my sister. I said, come on over. We need to talk. And I need you to do that like right now. So they came over and I talked to them on the other side of the house in the living room, and the bedroom was down the hall. And I explained everything that she did. 2 minutes. She was pulling her luggage and stuff out and packing her shit up and getting out. She's just gone in 2 hours. She had people coming over and picking her stuff up and stuff like that. And she took the rings and she smiled at me. She says, "Thanks for everything. Where would you like these rings?" Just put
So
them on
hold
the
on.
desk.
2 hours after you told her that she had 2 weeks to get the fuck out, she was gone.
Yeah. She was gone because I exposed her, because I
Yeah.
started talking to my family and saying,
Yeah.
this is who I'm dealing with. This is what she's done. And she's like, eek. And she started packing her shit up and that was it. Done. She left every
So
single gift I ever got her.
so my second question, where the fuck does somebody even buy Mercury? Like
I was gonna
You
ask
can
that
get it.
too.
like
You can get it. Well, see, you can get, like, I have an old BP cuff.
Oh,
So you can draw out of that, but you can get this stuff in any country, any third world country. You get makeup, it's got mercury and shit in it and stuff. They just don't eat it. But of course, I mean,
Mhm.
she would send stuff from the Philippines, and she would go to the Philippines and come back, and she'd have this stuff. And it's not hard if you know where to find it.
I mean, even your thermostat, when it goes back and forth, you got the mercury balls in there too, right? So,
It's
I
kind
mean,
of
it makes
interesting
sense.
because
Yeah.
one of my thermostats
Yeah.
didn't work anymore. That's really weird. Now that you mention that, that's odd.
Oh, yeah,
Jesus,
man.
man.
Yeah,
Jesus,
because it's got that. That's what it is.
it
There's
just didn't
mercury in the
work anymore.
thermostats. Yeah. Maybe I just fucking solved your mystery for you there, buddy.
Yeah, I'm
That's
not.
fucked
I
up.
wouldn't be fucking surprised. So anyway,
Yeah.
I went. I that was the most amazing moment and terrifying moment is trying to maintain that calm and say, okay, I know what you are, and then I expose this,
Mhm.
and the reaction I got was not exactly until I started talking about it and
Mm.
saying what she was doing, and man, she was out of there so fast because that's
And you
the
were saying it
last thing.
loud. That's what you
I
were
was saying
telling
it
us,
like
right?
I'm talking
Yeah.
to you right now, like we're a talk of the room, so you can hear somebody on
Mhm.
the other side of the house. Like
Yeah.
it was
Making it aware
full
that you
making it
know.
aware, and that was my
Mhm.
plan. That was my idea, is exposing this. And 2 hours later, she was packed and gone,
Crazy.
gone. Yeah, and that was
And
the big point for me. That was, and then
you didn't
realizing.
you didn't think about like taking the law, calling the law, or doing anything like that for
Can
her
you
doing that?
can you say that again?
You didn't think about like calling like the police or charging her
I
or
went
anything like
there.
that?
I went there to the RCMP. Like I after I went there after I removed her, and after I came to the conclusion, and I did all my research, and this equals um, mercury exposure. I figured, okay, it was heavy metal exposure of some kind, and then I
Mhm.
continued
Mhm.
on, and everything pointed to mercury exposure. And I went to the doctor, and I says, hey, this is what's going on. I went to the RCMP, and they blamed me. They said, you need to leave her alone. You need to don't bother her anymore and stuff like this. I'm like, you're not listening to me. I'm telling you that she's exposing me to mercury. This is criminal intent, right? That's a crime in this country, right? You guys know that's a crime in this country,
Yeah.
right?
Oh
Yeah.
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 100%,
So
man.
so that he blamed me. He says, "Well, we're going to look into this," and he made some weird things and about poisoning documents and shit like this, like just gaslighting me and shit. It was pathetic. It was such a judgmental cop. I've never really had a lot of problems with cops, but I have now. My
You think he
attitude
just
toward
didn't want
them
to
has
do the
changed.
paperwork? He
He was in full swing judgment.
Okay.
As soon as I told him, he asked about the disability and stuff like this. I says I was diagnosed like over a decade ago, type 2 bipolar rapid cycle, and then that was it. He was like, "Fucking throw the paper away. Oh, you get the fuck out of here. You're crazy." I mean, that was the energy,
That's
right? It
fast.
doesn't matter if you have mental health issues. It doesn't matter, right?
Mhm.
You're a guy, and you no longer have your wife, so it must be you.
Mhm.
You must be the problem because you're bipolar. But I'm the kindest soul you'll ever give the shirt off my back, right? I step up, I mean, like that's who I was. That's the person I chose to be. Is that person? So I didn't understand this. I was so felt so betrayed by the system. Right? No, you go to the hospital. I mean, you're not even gonna take this information. You're not doing it. He just stopped and he just projected
Mhm.
this shit on me. And I'm like, wow, this is insane. So I thought,
I'm
okay,
sorry,
I'm just
man.
going to go to my doctor's office. So I went down the street to my doctor's office that was like a kilometer away, and I couldn't get to see the doctor. So I'm like, well, that sucks. And I explained the situation to
Ooh.
them and stuff, to the receptionist
Mhm.
there. And this is COVID now, right? So it's crazy. You can't do anything with anybody. You can't go in and talk to your doctor or nothing. So I was explaining this, and they said, well, you should just go to the hospital then, right? So I went to go track down my psychiatrist because he knows me and he knows like this isn't me. Something's wrong here. But I couldn't find him, and they told me just to go to the friggin' psych ward. I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm not sure. I thought, screw this. I know it's mercury. So I went to Emerge and I says, I think I've been exposed to mercury and I need a test.
So he was
And
trying to tell you to go to the psych ward
yep, yep, yeah, that's
just
what he was trying to tell me.
to go check yourself in, pretty
Yep.
much.
because you're crazy, you're delusional, and that's that.
Gotcha.
But you know,
And this
Mercury
is
does that
this is
shit.
the doctor that you sorry, this is the
That
doctor?
was the cop, and now
Oh, the
the
cop. Okay, sorry.
receptionist at the doctor's office said go to the hospital too.
Go to the hospital. Okay,
So I
that's
thought, you know,
okay.
fine. I went to the hospital. I was looking for the doctor because I know he knows me. Like he's been my doctor for 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, dude, what is going on? Something's not right here. You know, and I wanted to tell him all this stuff, and um, I went there, and you have to go to Emerge. So I went to Emerge, and I said, okay, this is what the situation is. I went into the ER doc, and I said, this is the situation. I am requesting heavy metal toxicity, specifically mercury. I want to be
Mhm.
tested for that. Oh, there's no such thing as a test here. No, 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 no. But we don't have these tests. We can't test you here and stuff like that. Right. You guys work in construction, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
Heavy metal is something that there's a risk,
Definitely.
right? There's always a risk for
Definitely.
exposure to heavy metals.
Yep.
I ordered, I couldn't get them to test me. They refused to test me. I don't know why they refused to test me. They did test me, but they would not put mercury on the test. Because I asked when I went to the lab a few days later, they said, okay, we'll give you a test because I'm really getting pissed now. I'm like fucking, I'm
Mhm.
Yeah,
mad,
you're adamant,
right?
man.
I'm like
Yeah,
really fucking
definitely,
angry. Like
man.
no one's fucking hearing me. No one's seeing me. No one's fucking like no, 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 no. So I asked for heavy metal tests. The only thing that wasn't on the test was mercury. And they said, "Oh, we have
That
to do that at the hospital." But 3 days before, 2 days before, they said, "No, we can't do it here." So
yeah.
what's happening with the system here?
You're just
And I went and I
chasing your
logged in.
tail.
I went and I logged in to my lab account, right? Because everybody
Life
can log
Labs?
in to log in. Yeah, Life Labs. You can
Yeah,
log
yeah,
in there
yeah.
and see the thing. I didn't. I was not allowed access.
What?
Yeah, my account. I can't log in anymore. I haven't been able to log in since. So that kind of stops that avenue of investigation. Finally, I said after another 3 or 4 days, screw this, and I did my research. And there's a company in Toronto. I can't remember the name of the company, and they make heavy metal exposure kits. So I ordered one of those for like $45. It came in. I grew my hair out and had my daughter yank out like 150 hair follicles and put them in a Ziploc bag. And then the test kit came and I tested them. My younger sister was there and positive for mercury exposure. So then I contacted poison control and I contacted my doctor and I sent a picture of this. Can we have a fucking conversation now? With the picture
Mhm.
of the mercury exposure, positive for mercury exposure, and then all the color codes and the test and everything else is, can we talk now? And the next morning, I got a phone call from the doctor's office saying, "Well, we'll take a look at this." Da, 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 da. And he contacted poison control and all this stuff, and kept going, "No, we can't test for this and that, and so on and so forth." And I just tested this, like I just tested this and showed you, right? Why are you telling me that I can't test for this? And then a month later, he calls me up because now I'm doing antioxidants and stuff and detox. I've been doing for 2 years. Every month, I started another cycle to remove all the heavy metals from my system because it's been quite the fucking journey. So I have
Mhm.
been doing that. Removing that from my system. So, and I've told the doctors that I'm doing this. So maybe they're thinking, oh, okay, well, maybe he's taken this enough where it's going to remove the mercury from his system. So it's not going to register. And I mean, I'm at awe at how much I had to fight and never got a single person to say, okay, let's look at this because of the stigma associated with mental health issues. But you know something? It's really not mental health. What it is emotional health. Two completely different
Mhm.
things. I was completely irrational, except for the fact that now I was exposed to the mercury and I was under such tremendous emotional pain. I mean, imagine your spouse poisoning you because she didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I mean, like there's so much
Do you
emotional
think she was
trauma.
just trying to get money? Is that what it is? You think she
I
was
have
just
no
trying to
idea. I have
Yeah.
no idea what darkness is she's navigating through. I have absolutely no
Mhm.
idea. I don't know. I could go crazy thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I just said,
It's not even worth it,
do I
man, at
do
this
no, that
point.
was the thing. I had to make that
Yeah.
choice. I want to heal myself and for my kids and heal myself for me because I could sit there and fight this. I can go after, I can be angry, and there's no, I didn't want to do that. That's not who I am.
Yeah.
So I decided,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to spend my energy healing and not wasting on people like that. that don't deserve the unconditional
Good
love
for
that
you,
I have to
man.
bring for the table. It's
Yeah,
just
good for
my,
I'm
you
my
so
for
happy you're
recognize
here, man. You know,
Yeah,
I'm happy you're here. I'm happy
thanks, man.
you reached out to us. I'm
I'm
happy
really
that
thankful that I came across
yeah,
that TikTok that says, "Hey, you got a story to tell? You got some
yeah,
healing in
man.
there, some shit." Fucking, I went, "Yep, I'm on." Fucking
Yeah,
signed up, and
man.
here we go. Look at us now.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm really
You know.
happy. And we talk, man,
Oh
offline,
yeah.
we've
Yep.
talked and I really appreciate everything that you're doing also for your community and the people like you and showed us the circle, which I think is great too, So I hope all that your little plan, I won't expose it right now, but I hope that, that all comes through true and we have your
yeah,
back on that. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a hell of a journey the last couple of years, but I'm coming out of my healing now, and I got a story to tell. And
hell yeah, man.
demonstrating the healing, and the catalyst was like, we've already talked about the psilocybin was the
Mhm.
catalyst, and it took incredible amounts of emotional trauma for me to actually sink or swim, right? And,
I think we should get a little bit into that. Into
sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I did my research. You want me to just to dive in?
I feel like
Yeah.
yeah, I like Edward. I like just like hearing you talk. Like I love listening to you talk. But I feel like you're one of these guys who are just like a fucking information gatherer. Like you want
I'm
all
like
the
a
information.
sponge. Sometimes I'm like a
Yeah,
Yeah.
sponge.
I love it,
I really
man.
like it.
yeah,
I
I love
remember
it.
the stuff that resonates with me. I remember, and I can recall it really easily. And other
Yeah.
stuff it just doesn't, and I toss it aside. And then sometimes it comes up, and it's there. It's great. But I do my
Mhm.
research. That's I don't jump to conclusions. I did all my research on everything. I moved forward, and that's where it led me to psilocybin. I wanted an alternative to all these medications I was taking. And I don't like the band aid solution to mental health and emotional health. I don't like it at all. It sucks. It is a band aid solution. It's not doing anything. People are getting worse. They're not getting better. And then after COVID I mean, we could talk about that just for hours about how it affected everybody
oh
emotionally and
yeah,
psychologically.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
it's insane. But I wanted an alternative. And I did the 15 ECTs, and all it did was screw up my memory. It didn't do shit to me. Is a 90% success rate. So I understand why they're doing it. And a 10%, of course, I fell in that category. Oh well, such is
Mhm.
life. But I it didn't succeed, which is a good in a way because it allowed me to investigate into psilocybin. Now there was another thing that used to be in Victoria. They had uh, I can't remember the proper term, the name of it, but it's a magnetic uh, shock treatments. So it's not electrical; it's magnetic. So you don't get the side effects because I don't know if you've ever had an electric shock treatment, but they put you out and you have a migraine for like days, and it is really really hard. You're walking around for like a zombie for like 6 weeks. I walked around, and I did. You're only supposed to do 12, but they ended up doing 15. I was going in for my 16th one, and they said, "Oh no, you've done too many. We can't do anymore." So maybe that contributed to my memory loss. These gaps that are there. Oh well, such is life, I guess. It's like
Yeah.
okay, I signed the waiver, so yeah, no problem. I guess I got to suck it up.
that's how they
It
get
was
you.
worth a try. It was worth it. But the good thing is I went to look for alternatives, and I think the first place I saw was the magic mushrooms and psilocybin treatment. That was from Oxford University, and then
How
I
did you
started.
come across it? Like it just popped up or like
I
how
looked for alternative treatments to
okay.
mental health issues, and they had posted some research on in Oxford University, and then they cited places like Johns Hopkins University, Harvard University, UBC, so on and so forth, that are doing these researches and doing this research on psilocybin, and it's dealing addictions and depression and so on and so forth, mental health issues, emotional health issues. I like to say right now that there's the emotional health and the mental health are completely two different things. Completely two different things. Yeah, we can get into that in the next session because when we get into the psilocybin, you'll understand when I start talking about my
Yeah.
healing, that how I navigated stuff, and then it makes sense why we should
Yeah.
be looking at this from emotional and mental as completely two different entities.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I just want to say this too. Like, so you're at the point that brought you to psilocybin. is because you were just trying everything and nothing was really working for you, and then you
Exactly.
came across this. Yeah, okay.
Yep. Exactly.
You're just
I
at the
was
point,
I
give
was
me
done with
anything
the
that's gonna
medication.
work.
I wanted
Yeah,
something else because I didn't like where I was. I didn't like where I was going. I didn't like how I felt. I didn't like how I didn't like it. It wasn't anything. It was a band-aid solution to a bigger problem that wasn't being addressed.
yeah.
And I did my research, and then I brought it to my doctor's attention. I says I want to I want to have a conversation about two different things, and I talked about the magnetic treatments that
Mhm.
cost like $4,000, and I just didn't. I mean, I didn't have the money for that. Right, a single parent on disability. There's no freaking way
Yeah.
I'm going to be
Yeah.
able to afford
And the
that. And I have to
government's
go to
the
Vancouver to do
government's
that
not
too.
gonna
So
pay. Yeah.
yeah, and there's no guarantee, and I have to do several of them. So I
Yeah.
thought, okay. And then the other one was the psilocybin, and I brought that up, and my doctor jumped out of his chair, literally grinned. If he grinned anymore, the top of his head would have fallen off.
I
He's
remember
like,
you saying
"Yes."
that.
He was, but he couldn't. He knows because he was following the research and been doing the research on psilocybin and treating addictions and mental health issues, emotional health issues, depression, so on and so forth. And he's been getting significantly involved in this stuff. He was actually the leading doctor here on Vancouver Island. They were going to be doing studies, trials here in Nanaimo, and he was helping facilitate this. And he brought this to
Mhm.
my attention. But this was before he told me what was happening there. I brought this up to him, and he says, "Yes, okay." And I says, "What do you recommend?" And he says he recommends a counselor that would be able to help facilitate this and so on and so forth and navigate this. And I'm like, "Well, it's going to cost me $2,000 for this." It's like, I can't afford to do that. So I did my research,
Mhm.
and I got somebody to sit with me for 6 hours that I trusted, that knew me very well and capable of helping me navigate this if I shift my experience to something that's uncomfortable, or if I panic or something like that. And it worked very, very well.
Well,
Only when
um,
my wife
hold on,
was
Ed.
there. Go ahead.
I wanna kinda go into that in number 2, brother.
Okay, 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 okay.
I wanna dive deep into that's the starting
That's the change.
of,
That's when everything
yeah,
changed.
man,
I'll say
exactly,
this.
yeah.
I'll say this one thing. Um, what he said to me in that moment was, there are three moments in your life that change you for who you are: the death of a parent, the birth of a child, and psilocybin. And without any hesitation, without any twist or any reason whatsoever, that is extremely true. That is, it changed my
Mhm.
entire life. That is one of the most profound moments, is when I actually did some heroic doses of psilocybin in order to connect with my higher self and my consciousness, and it changed the game completely. It changed everything in my life.
Well, and that's what DMT and,
That's my
Ayahuasca.
understanding.
ayahuasca,
That's
exactly,
I'd
yeah.
love to go to. I'd love to do ayahuasca.
I had a friend that went to Peru, and she did the whole ayahuasca trip. The first night, she said it was horrible, she was just puking her guts out, but then after she puked, she was very enlightened, and then the second night, she said it was just unbelievable. Actually, when she came back here, she was like, "This world doesn't matter. This world doesn't matter anymore. There's way like she couldn't even explain what she went
It's
through."
It's yeah, I would love to do that. I would jump at the
Yeah.
opportunity. When I went to, I met a shaman in Nova Scotia. When I went across this summer, I did my solo journey, and part of my bucket list was to camp across Canada with my dog, and I did that. So I went all the way across Canada, and I ended up running into this guy through somebody, and he went to Peru and did ayahuasca and stuff, and he's a shaman. And I'm like, oh, come on, please, man, I really want to do this so bad. So, but he's like, no, I can't facilitate this, man. I don't know you. I don't know. It's like, okay, no problem, man. I won't bring it up again. And we had a lot of great conversations and stuff like this. But if I get a chance to go, I'm going to definitely go, because I think it's going to be quite the enlightening experience.
Do it,
Considering
man.
psilocybin did for me, I can't imagine what ayahuasca is going to be like. I think it's just going to be absolutely amazing, unlocking incredible potential for the human brain.
Well, when you're ready to go down that rabbit hole, let me know, and I'll find out all the information that you
Yeah,
need
thanks. That'd be
if you
great.
wanna do that,
That'd be awesome.
and then yeah, because like I said, I have a friend that's partaked in that, so, I can grab you everything you need for your no problem.
Thanks, Eric. I really appreciate that, man.
Hell yeah,
No
man.
problem, man.
Well, we will cut it off there for tonight, Ed.
Okay.
Thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing all that stuff. Um, I mean, I can sense your energy, and I know you're super comfortable with sharing that type of stuff, and we love it, man. We really do. We really appreciate it. Some
Hell
people
yeah.
have a very hard time coming on and getting that fucking deep. So it means a lot to us that you were willing to get that in depth with that type of information. Um,
Thanks for hosting this. I really appreciate it. It's something that I know I had to do. It's part of the healing is being able to
Absolutely, man.
express this because I've been through a lot and I don't look like I what I've been through, but it's quite difficult when you start getting it when we get into the other stuff and how you start unfolding the programming and stuff like that and realizing patterns of behavior and stuff. When that's where we can talk about that next time on that unlocked all these things that psilocybin had offered and shown me.
Takes a village, brother. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
man.
That's what we're doing
Yeah,
here at Raw Minds.
exactly.
And
You
dude,
know.
like this is therapy, man. Like letting
Oh,
it
it
out
is.
and like even just us facilitating this for you. Like this is my therapy.
Mine
Talking on the
too.
phone, doing the pre-interviews, the virtual interviews, then doing the actual episodes. Like every step of the way, selfishly for me, affects me in a positive way. Like you were a fucking bottle rocket on the phone the first time we talked, man.
Oh
It
yeah,
was
I
just
couldn't
like,
stop talking. I was all over
yeah,
the
dude.
place.
But it
Yeah,
was great, man. Like this is why we do it. And like I said,
Yeah, man.
it's sharing every fucking tool that there is out there. You know,
yeah.
it's sharing every avenue that any person's taken to get to where they are in life today. So we want to thank you for the first half of your story for sure. Oh damn, we made it the whole episode. You warned
Oh,
us to let
made it
you
the whole
talk, and we
way.
made it all the way.
She likes chirping. She likes talking. So
But
yeah.
yeah, we want to thank you for your vulnerability tonight, and we're definitely looking forward to getting into the healing aspect of your journey next week, man. We really appreciate you
Perfect.
coming on.
I'm
Number
looking forward
2.
to it, Eric, Anthony. Thank you very
Yeah,
much for
Yeah,
man.
hosting this. I am extremely grateful. Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we are
Anthony, let them
too.
know what's in store, man. Like, just so they know for
Oh,
tomorrow.
what's
I
in
mean, not
store?
tomorrow. No, Anthony. Like, so
Okay.
because this is the build up, and then
Yeah.
So what's in
you
store
know
for what?
for next week for him, right? So what we went through.
Yeah, like we're gonna go into the psilocybin stuff, right?
Hey, I'll do it. So
You do
for
it. You
yeah,
got it.
so yeah. All good, guys. So this is Ed's journey for what he went through and everything. And then on the next episode, which will be recording next Monday, will be his healing journey. So what he's going to get more deeper into the psilocybin and what changed for him and the process of how he did it.
Yeah, and his
So
tools.
and the tools. So
Yeah.
it's a good episode. It's a long one. So we thought we'd break it up in two instead of having you guys sit here for a couple hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to, all my content on TikTok is recorded. All my entire healing journey is on there. So if anybody's curious to know about the process that I went through and how I navigated my healing and the connections I made and the breakthroughs and stuff, it's all on there.
Plug it.
Yeah, drop it. What's your
Plug it,
TikTok
man.
name?
Yeah, Ragged 65. It's on there.
You want to spell
Um,
it for them, just for people, so they can, just
yeah,
in case.
yeah, Ragged Ragged 65. And
That's on TikTok.
And
that's
it'll
on
be in the
TikTok.
bio too,
Yeah,
in
Okay.
our
we'll
bio.
plug your socials in the
Thanks,
description
thanks,
too.
gentlemen. Appreciate that.
Yeah, and thank you.
Yeah,
And
man. Thank you
yeah,
so much.
what an
Well,
episode, man.
Anthony,
Yeah,
I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, brother.
Gentlemen, appreciate you both. Thank you very much for your time and your energy
Yeah,
and what you're
Thank
doing.
you.
It's so needed. It's so needed.
yeah, man.
Thank you, brother. Well,
Take care.
that's it. Thank you so much, and we will see you next month.
Perfect.
Bye bye.
Take care, guys.